Your soulmate is in a deep depression. They are dying of regret for not telling you that they. My beloved child, don't skip, because the silence you thought meant they had forgotten you is hiding something far deeper. Your soulmate has been carrying a regret they can no longer ignore, and every quiet moment seems to bring them back to the same unfinished sentence, the one they should have told you when they had the chance. They tried to move forward. They tried to convince themselves that time would make the feeling smaller. But instead, the truth became louder. And now they are emotionally overwhelmed by one realization: they may have allowed the most important person in their heart to walk away without ever knowing what was real. Stay till the end, because the secret is not simply that they cared about you. It is what they were preparing to tell you before fear changed their mind. There was a moment, a very specific moment, when they almost revealed everything. They had imagined your reaction, rehearsed the words privately, and even pictured what life might look like if you finally knew. But when that moment arrived, they hesitated. Not because their feelings disappeared, but because those feelings had become more serious than they expected. Something huge is waiting for you, because the regret consuming their thoughts today began with a decision that looked small at the time. They chose silence. And now that silence has become the one thing they wish they could undo. Here is where everything shifts. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that what they kept from you was never going to remain buried forever. Don't skip, because there is another layer to this story that changes the meaning of their distance completely. They were not only hiding how deeply they cared, they were hiding a decision they had already made about you. Long before you noticed anything changing, they had privately reached a conclusion: if they ever found the courage to speak honestly, they wanted to stop treating your connection like something temporary. They had begun imagining you in places in their future where nobody else seemed to fit. Ordinary moments started reminding them of you. A song, a familiar phrase, an empty seat, a quiet evening. Somehow their thoughts kept returning to the conversation they never finished. But there is one detail they never expected. Someone close to them noticed. This person saw the change in their expression whenever your name appeared. They noticed how quickly your soulmate became quiet whenever conversations turned toward love, timing, or missed opportunities. And recently, that person finally asked the question your soulmate had been avoiding: why didn't you just tell them? Your soulmate had no easy answer. Because suddenly every excuse sounded smaller than the truth. Stay till the end. The answer they finally gave revealed something surprising. They believed telling you the truth could change both of your lives, and they were afraid they had waited until the opportunity was gone. But the biggest revelation has not arrived yet. Something changed after that conversation, and your soulmate can no longer look at the past the same way. They began remembering details they thought they had forgotten. The way you showed up when they needed kindness, the moments when you understood things they never explained, and the strange sense of peace they felt around you before they even understood why. Then one memory returned more clearly than all the others: the exact moment they nearly told you what they had been holding inside. And this is where their regret becomes so powerful. The words they wanted to say were not simply, "I miss you," or even, "I care about you." What they wanted to tell you was that meeting you had changed the direction of their heart, and they had quietly begun believing that what existed between you could become something lasting. Don't skip, because they are now questioning whether the door they assumed was closed might still be waiting for one honest conversation. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is realizing that silence protected them from uncertainty for a moment, but it also kept you from knowing the truth. And now a once-in-a-lifetime realization is forming inside them. Perhaps the greatest regret would not be what they failed to say before. Perhaps it would be recognizing the truth now, and choosing silence again. Because this time, something is different. This time, they are no longer asking themselves whether they should tell you. They are asking themselves how they can finally say the words they should have said from the beginning. There is something your soulmate has finally stopped pretending they can forget. Don't skip, because what happened inside them after that realization changed everything. For a long time, they believed staying silent was the safer choice. They thought feelings could be placed somewhere deep inside, covered with ordinary routines, and eventually forgotten. But your memory refused to become ordinary. The more they tried to distance themselves from what they felt, the more clearly they began understanding what you actually meant to them. And now the regret is heavier because they have discovered something they never expected. You were not simply someone they wanted in one chapter of their life. You were the person they had quietly imagined beside them when the future became real. Stay till the end, because one particular memory keeps returning to them. There was a day when you said something completely simple, perhaps without even realizing its importance, and your soulmate carried those words much longer than you knew. That moment convinced them that you understood a part of them most people never noticed. They almost told you everything then. They almost admitted that behind every hesitation was a heart becoming more attached to you. But they stopped themselves. And now they keep wondering what would have happened if they had spoken just a few seconds sooner. Something huge is waiting for you, because they recently realized that the moment they considered insignificant may have been the exact turning point both of you were waiting for. Now comes the detail that makes their regret impossible to ignore. Someone asked your soulmate whether they would make the same choice if they could return to that moment, and their answer came immediately. No. They would not hide it again. Don't skip, because that answer surprised even them. Until that second, they had continued telling themselves that silence had been necessary, that the timing had been wrong, that perhaps everything happened exactly as it needed to happen. But suddenly those explanations disappeared. They knew exactly what they would change. They would look at you differently. They would stop expecting you to somehow understand feelings they never expressed. They would tell you that your presence had become important before they were ready to admit it. And most importantly, they would reveal the secret they had protected for so long. They had already pictured choosing you. Not temporarily. Not because they were lonely. They had imagined building something genuine with you, something calm, meaningful, and lasting. Stay till the end, because there is another revelation. Your soulmate once started preparing the words they wanted to tell you. They formed the conversation in their mind repeatedly, changing sentences, imagining your response, wondering whether you had been waiting to hear the same truth. But every time courage came close, uncertainty pulled them backward. Now they understand something that hurts far more than uncertainty ever did. You cannot respond to a truth you were never given the chance to hear. And then something happened that completely changed the way they see you. Your soulmate recently learned, or finally understood, that you may have noticed more than they thought. Perhaps you noticed the pauses. Perhaps you felt the change whenever your eyes met. Perhaps you wondered why someone who seemed emotionally close could suddenly become so difficult to understand. That possibility has shaken them, because they are beginning to realize that while they were protecting themselves from vulnerability, you may have been standing on the other side of their silence trying to understand what it meant. Something huge is waiting for you. Their deepest regret is no longer simply, "I should have told them how I felt." It has become, "What if they were waiting for me to say it?" Don't skip, because this is where the story begins moving towards something neither of you expected. Your soulmate is no longer satisfied with replaying the past. For the first time, they are thinking about changing what happens next. They have begun imagining one honest conversation without excuses, without hiding behind timing, without expecting you to read between unfinished sentences. And there is one truth they know must finally be included in that conversation, the truth they were most afraid to reveal. They did not walk away emotionally because you meant too little. They became quiet because you had started meaning too much. Stay till the end, because even that is not the complete confession. There is one final piece behind their regret, something connected to the future they once imagined with you. And when that piece finally comes into the light, you will understand why forgetting you was never as easy as they pretended it was. But now, the memory they avoided the longest has returned with startling clarity. Don't skip, because this is where their regret begins revealing what was hidden beneath all those unfinished moments. Your soulmate remembers the exact period when they realized their feelings for you were no longer temporary, and strangely, it was not during some dramatic moment. It happened quietly. They were imagining an ordinary future, simple mornings, small conversations, difficult days, unexpected victories, and suddenly, you were there in every picture. That realization changed something inside them. Until then, they believed they could control the connection by keeping certain feelings unspoken. But how do you hide from yourself when someone has already become part of the future you naturally imagine? Stay till the end, because they made a private decision around that time, one they never told you about. They decided that if circumstances gave them one unmistakable opportunity, they would finally speak. They would stop giving you half signals and incomplete sentences. They would tell you that you had become more important than they ever intended. Then the opportunity came. And they hesitated again. Not because the truth had changed, but because suddenly they understood how much they could lose if you did not feel the same. So they smiled, acted normal, and allowed the moment to pass. Something huge is waiting for you, because what they did not know was that this would become the exact moment they would replay again and again, wondering whether their entire story could have changed with one honest sentence. What happened afterward is even more surprising. Your soulmate began comparing every new connection, every meaningful conversation, and every glimpse of possibility to something they had experienced with you. They never planned to do it. It happened automatically. Someone could make them laugh, yet afterward they remembered how effortless laughter felt around you. Someone could understand their words, yet they remembered how you sometimes seemed to understand their silence. And slowly, an uncomfortable truth became impossible to avoid. What they had been searching for elsewhere carried pieces of something they had already found with you. Don't skip. This realization did not make them romanticize everything that happened between you. They remember the uncertainty. They remember the misunderstandings. They remember moments when both of you could have communicated more clearly. But even after remembering the imperfect parts, one fact remained unchanged: you mattered. More than they admitted. More than their behavior revealed. More than you were ever properly told. And recently, something seemingly small made that truth impossible to dismiss. They heard a familiar phrase, saw something that reminded them of a conversation with you, and suddenly the past did not feel distant anymore. It felt unfinished. Stay till the end, because in that moment they finally admitted something privately: I should have told them. Not tomorrow. Not when everything became perfect. Not after receiving some impossible guarantee. They should have told you when the truth was alive between you. Something huge is waiting for you, because that admission created a second question, and this one has been following them ever since: what if I still can? That question is changing them more than the regret itself. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that regret can either become a room someone remains trapped inside, or it can become a lesson that finally teaches them to choose honesty. And for the first time, they are considering the second path. Don't skip, because they are not imagining some perfect movie moment where every uncertainty magically disappears. What they want now is much simpler and far more meaningful. They want you to finally know what was real. They want you to understand that the distance did not erase what they felt. They want to explain why they became quiet when they should have become honest. Most of all, they want to reveal the sentence they kept rewriting inside their mind. Stay till the end, because that sentence contains the missing piece. Your soulmate wanted to tell you, I can see you becoming part of the life I am trying to build. That was the truth behind their hesitation. You were not merely becoming someone they cared about, you were becoming someone whose absence from their imagined future felt wrong. And now comes the unexpected shift. They have started questioning whether regret arrived to punish the past, or to prevent them from repeating it. Something huge is waiting for you, because another choice is approaching. This time, they know exactly what silence could cost. This time, they know what happens when fear is allowed to speak louder than truth. And this time, there is one thing they are considering doing that they could never bring themselves to do before. Letting you hear the complete story, including the one secret about their feelings they have never admitted to anyone. And suddenly, the secret they protected for so long no longer feels safe inside silence. Don't skip, because your soulmate has reached a realization they never expected to face. The hardest part was never admitting that they cared about you, it was admitting how early they knew. Long before the distance, long before the unanswered questions, there was a quiet moment when something inside them became certain. They looked at you and understood that this connection was different. You were not simply another person passing through their story. Your presence made them think differently about commitment, timing, and the kind of future they wanted to create. Yet instead of telling you, they waited for certainty about how you would respond. They searched for signs. They analyzed your words. They questioned moments that might have been simple and ignored moments that might have meant everything. Stay till the end, because the shocking truth is that while you may have wondered whether they felt anything at all, they were privately wondering whether they were feeling too much. That contradiction created the silence between you. Something huge is waiting for you, because now your soulmate can finally see what fear prevented them from seeing then. Honesty did not require knowing your answer beforehand. It only required giving you the truth and allowing you to choose what it meant. Then came the realization that changed the entire story. Don't skip. Your soulmate finally understood that they had spent more energy imagining what could go wrong than discovering what could have gone right. Think about that. They rehearsed rejection before you ever rejected them. They imagined endings before allowing the beginning to become clear. They prepared themselves to lose something they had never fully allowed themselves to hold. And now, looking backward, they can see dozens of tiny moments differently. That conversation where you stayed longer than necessary. That look they dismissed too quickly. That moment you seemed ready to say something before changing the subject. They cannot know exactly what each moment meant to you, and that uncertainty is precisely what has awakened them. They finally understand that assumptions created the distance honesty could have prevented. Stay till the end, because this is where regret begins transforming into courage. Your soulmate no longer wants to build conclusions from possibilities. They want truth. Even if truth arrives slowly. Even if one conversation cannot immediately answer everything. Something huge is waiting for you, because they have started forming one question they wish they had asked much earlier. Did you ever feel that there was something unfinished between us two? And beneath that question is an even deeper confession: they never truly experienced your story as something finished. Now listen closely, because the next realization may be the strongest one yet. Your soulmate has finally stopped wishing they could become the person they were before meeting you. They understand now that certain connections change people permanently. Not by promising a perfect ending, but by revealing something about themselves they can never again pretend not to know. You showed them how deeply they could care. You showed them what it felt like to imagine someone inside the ordinary parts of tomorrow. And perhaps most importantly, losing the chance to speak clearly taught them what silence can cost. Don't skip, because they have made one private promise to themselves. If another genuine opportunity appears, they will not hide behind uncertainty again. They will speak carefully, respectfully, and honestly. They will not demand an answer from you. They will not pretend the past can simply be rewritten. They only want to give you what they should have given you from the beginning, the truth. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. There is still one revelation your soulmate has not allowed themselves to say aloud, and it explains why the regret became impossible to ignore now instead of months ago. Something recently made them imagine your future continuing completely without them. And for the first time, they understood that waiting forever was also a decision. That thought changed everything. Because now the question inside them is no longer whether they still care. They already know that answer. The question is whether they will finally become brave enough to tell you before another moment quietly passes that neither of you can recover.